Hey guys, it's Mike from Menu Development, and we're going to kick off the next part of the series here for the war tutorial series. In this one, we're going to look at making this main menu window right here. So when the application loads, it'll be presented with this window. It's not going to be resizable. It's going to have a custom title, have our buttons using the styles that we just made. It's going to have a few things going on here. We're going to hook up to events for when the mouse enters, when the mouse presses, and when the mouse presses, it would do that, and also when the mouse leaves. So when the mouse enters, you see down here we have this text that appears. We're going to duplicate that action. When it presses, it's going to use your custom style, and all that's set up. We don't have to do anything for that. We just have to set up the press event or the click event. The mouse enter and mouse leave. So we're going to set up this window here in our solution. So let's go ahead and get started on that. So if we go ahead, we'll see here that the last time we created resource dictionaries, which have our common controls, and it's going to be what we use here. The war menu button is going to be the style that we apply to our button to get all this the way, the visual and the behavior that we want. So let's go ahead and open up our main window .xaml, and we'll go ahead and open up the code behind as well. Let me zoom in here. So you can see here that in our code behind, we don't have anything but just this main window constructor that's going to be called, and it's going to initialize the component. And then over here, kind of set this up for us. You get a basic look at what we're going to see. Let me zoom in here a little bit. So when we start, we have this this little window. It's going to have a basic title of main window. It's got a height and width specified for it. So if we were to start this, you'll see that it's just going to come up here, main window for the title. It's going to be resizable right now, which we'll take away. It's going to have the minimize and expand or maximize buttons, and then close. So let's go ahead and start customizing this a little bit. So you remember the title was main window, which is, we set that by this property right here. So we'll go ahead and update this. Or it's just going to say war. We want a different height and width. From what I was using there, we have a height of 600 and a width of 800. And you'll see as we go along, it's going to actually display our changes up here to us, what it can at this time. So if we go inside the grid here, this grid, what we're going to do, we're going to set up a 3x3 grid, and the middle part's where we're going to put our control at, and our control is going to house our buttons as its children, and it's going to automatically size and center based off the size of our buttons. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So we're going to set up some columns. So it'll be grid.column definitions. Inside there, the column definition, we're going to need 3 of these. And if you remember when we set up our style, the asterisk here, the star, this grid unit, or grid size unit, or whatever you want to call it, this is like a proportion, weighted proportion. So this is going to take any available space and fill it out. But we want to add a few more here. Go ahead and remove that and just close that out. There we go. So add another column definition. Now this one we didn't see in the styles, but we're going to set this to auto. Now what this auto is going to do is it's going to automatically factor in the size needed for whatever is inside of this column, and it's going to set the size to that. So whatever it needs, whatever is inside that column, it'll get the size from that and then set the size to it. So it's almost like if we knew what the size was going to be, we could set this to 400 or whatever, and then this right here would pick up the available space and make use of it. But what we want to do is we want a third column, and we want to set the width to the star as well. So what this is going to do is we got 3 columns, one that's going to be automatically sized. These other 2 columns, which will be on the left and right of this middle column, are going to take whatever space is left, and they're each going to take half of that space. So I have a 1, 2, 3, and whatever's inside here will take up what it needs. Then these other 2 columns are just going to take the remaining space, half it, and they're going to use that. And you can see once we get our buttons and stuff set up in here, we'll be able to see the grid lines a little bit better, so you can see what we're doing. So let's go ahead and set up our rows real quick. So you'll see the columns take a width, but they can't have a height associated with them. And then the rows are just going to take a height. And we're going to set these up the exact same way that we did the columns, because we want our buttons to be centered in both vertically and horizontally inside of our window here. So we'll go ahead and set that up. So now we have our grid set up. And you can't really tell what's going on too much right here, because we don't have anything in this center section. So you know, it's making use of the space, and this doesn't need any size yet. So you'll see when we get this updated that it will change. Real quick, let's go ahead and change the background to match you know, what we had initially when we saw the working game. So if we do the background property here, what I used was this one right here. So you see we got that look to it. You guys can pick whatever you want for your background. And then to disable that resizing, it'll take away the minimize and maximize buttons from the up at the top right part, and then it will also stop them from clicking on the side to drag out the width and height. We want to do resize mode, no resize, and now that'll stop that. So if we go ahead and run this real quick, you'll see the new title, background, and then they can't resize it. So you see here, can't get the arrows there to resize. If you click, nothing will happen. These two, the minimize and maximize buttons, have been taken off. We have our new title and a new background set up. Okay, so let's go ahead and inside of our grid, what we're going to do is we're going to insert a stack panel to that center part. So stack panel, we'll put it in row 1, column 1. Now what this is going to do is, remember that the indexes for these start at 0. So 0, 1. This stack panel is going to be inside this width, the column that has the auto width and the row that has the auto height. And the stack panel, what it'll do is it's going to automatically size itself based off of the size needed by its children, and that will give us the size that we need in the middle. And then the other two columns and rows will take the remaining size and kind of center us up in the window. So we want to make sure that we align the content inside of our stack panel in the center as well. So now we have that set up. Now you'll see when we start putting these buttons in, it's going to make more sense, because this is going to update and kind of show you what I mean about this, the centering. So let's go ahead and add 3 buttons real quick. We'll name these buttons for new game. We'll go ahead and set a width of 150 and a height of 50, and we'll give it some content. So now you can kind of see here, when we added this button, the stack panel resized to fit this button, and that size is accounted for in the rows and columns. So we take the size we need here, and then the other 2 rows and columns take the rest of the space and, you know, make use of that. So now we have a nice centered stack panel here. Let's go ahead and copy this, and we'll paste it in 2 more times. We'll have a few errors here until we clean this up. This one's going to be the rules button, and this one here is going to be the exit game button. So we want to make this say rules, and then this one right here will say exit game, or we'll just say exit. Okay, so now we have our buttons here. So if we go ahead and look at this real quick, you'll see that we do have our button set up. Now these styles that we're doing, these are templated controls. So what we've done is, with our style that we set up, we've made use of that and overrode the content template to make our own visual and behavior implementation of that, if that makes sense. So basically, we're going to change the way it looks and change the way it behaves based on our style. So another thing that you'll notice that we have, let me pull this back over here. Whenever we're over these buttons, you'll see also we have the text at the bottom there that updates. So we'll need to set that up as well. So if we go down here and look, we can have, we'll set up a text block. Now in this text block, we'll have to give it a name and a few other properties. So you see, if you click off, this is going to say invalid markup because we haven't really closed this out yet. So let's give this a name real quick. I'll name this text block. Let's call it info. Make sure the text is aligned in the center. And then we'll give it a font weight of bold. We use the font family Terminal. And then we'll also set the margin here to be 0.5. Close that out, and you'll see now that we have, put your mouse over right here, you'll see it. It's got the margin around it, and our text block is in there. So there's a few things that we need to do. We need to set up some events that we're going to need to handle. Would they have the buttons have event handlers on it for different kinds of events, such as mouse enter, mouse leave, and click. Those will be the ones that we're going to take advantage of right now. And there's two ways that we can do this. We can actually first let's go ahead and set our style on here to show you how easy this is. So if we look, we'll just go to style. We already have all this set up, so we're just gotta give it a dynamic resource. Oops. And then we need to pass it in our resource key, which if you remember here, we go to common controls and we set up a war menu button for this one. So if we go over here to our XAML, put that resource key in, you'll see here it's already updated. So we'll just go ahead and we'll apply the style to the rest of the buttons as well. There we go. So you see how easy that is, and we don't have to worry about each one of these buttons. We don't have to go into and change anything for. We can simply, or we don't have to make a new class that holds all this stuff. We just make it a style, and then we take that style and apply it to our control, our templated control, and now we have, we have it working already. So it's really powerful what you can do with WPF. It takes some getting used to on some of the binding, especially depending on what you're trying to do with it. But overall, it's not too bad. So real quick, let's go ahead and see our buttons in action here. Okay, so you see if we mouse over, we get all the activity or all the behavior that we would expect. If we click it, it shrinks. We did have one other thing set up, if you remember, inside of our style here. And that was this one here. If the property is enabled to set defaults, we want to show this other brush. And we don't, if it's not enabled, we don't do either one of these other two activities. So the mouse over or the mouse press, we don't take those into account. So we can quickly check that is working by going to this one and setting that is enable property defaults. So this rules button here is now set to disabled by default. And you'll see here it doesn't take into effect the mouse being over it or being pressed, where these will. Let's go ahead and take that out real quick. Okay, so let me zoom out just a little bit here, kind of get some space. So there's two ways that we can hook up some of these events. We're going to use both ways. One, we're going to set up the click event right here in the XAML and show you how that's going to update the code behind and go ahead and register those events for us. So if we go ahead and come here to the button, we just type click, you'll see that little lightning bolt here, this is a click event. Hit tab there, and then actually let's do it this way. Hold on one second. I'll show you how we can do it real quick. So just click equals. You'll see here that we can choose new event handler. If we do that and just hit tab, it's going to automatically create this for us. And if we go back to our code behind, you'll see it's already got this set up for us as well. Now it's already registered this for us. We don't have to do that. I'll show you what I mean by that here in just a second. Let's go ahead and set the rest of these up. So click, and you'll see here it picks this one up. Since there's already one there, we could choose to do the same thing with if we wanted to. So if we had our stuff set up in our code behind, it would pick this up. When we come to this event, we could just select it here, but we're just going to choose new event handler, let it do all that for us, and click for this one as well, and new event handler, hit tab. Let's see, and save that, come back in here to our code behind. You'll see this added all these in here for us. So let's just go ahead and leave a quick comment so we remember what we're doing here. And I'll click for so we can't really do these yet because we don't have the rest of the game set up, but we're just going to stub these out for now. Okay, so we've got that set up. Now the other thing we need to do is when the mouse comes into these buttons, we want something to happen when the mouse enters and when the mouse leaves. When the mouse enters, we want to update this text block down here to, say some text. But when the mouse leaves any of these buttons, we want to clear that text so there's nothing showing up. So let's go ahead and we'll do that real quick. We won't change anything in the example. We're going to go to the code behind and set all this up. So I want to show you guys a different way to hook up these events. So we'll come back over here. Let's go ahead and I'll section this out real quick. So set up its region for construction. And then this will be for event handling. Okay. And then we want to add our place for our methods. You guys don't have to do this if you don't want to, but it makes it easy to separate out your code. And then if we're not working with one part, we can actually shrink these down, not have to worry about them. So that's personal preference there. So what we want to do is we want to register some events. So, and this is useful if like you have to dispose of some things, and you have to handle registering and and unregistering the events on your own. So we could just have a register events method here, be private because we don't want anybody else to be able to call it, and be void because it's not going to return anything. So what we could do is we could call button underscore new game dot mouse enter. You'll see here everything on the lightning bolt here is it's different event handlers that we can tie into. So mouse enter, just hit tab there. We're going to do plus equals. Now you see here it's going to come up with something that says it's going to go ahead, it can populate this for us. So if we hit tab and then hit tab again, you'll see here it's went ahead and created all this for us. So let's go ahead and do one for each one of these. The next one is the rules. Mouse enter, plus equals, tab tab, and then we'll do exit game, mouse enter, plus equals, tab tab. So let's go ahead and comment here so we can track what we're doing. Handle what happens when mouse enters buttons. Okay, now we could set up a new event handler for what happens when they leave, but since they're all going to be doing the same thing, it doesn't really make sense to have 3 separate ones. So what we'll do is comment here. So we're going to go ahead and button underscore new game dot mouse leave plus equals, and we're not going to do this one here. We're going to do main menu mouse leave. Okay, and then what we'll do also is we'll do button underscore rules dot mouse leave plus equals, and we're going to do the same thing. So now all these are going to follow the same rules. So now if we come here, we'll do, just paste that out. I have to pass a few parameters in. So now we got that ready to go. So let's go ahead and let's move these down. So cut those out. And we'll go ahead and we'll put these in our event handling region. Alright, so what happens when the mouse leaves? We want to clear that text block out, right? So we'll call text block.info.text. We'll make that equal to string.empty. Okay. So what we want to happen here is, let's go ahead and copy this, and we'll implement these real quick. We want this to say something when it enters the exit game. We want to put exit war. So we'll copy this, come down here, paste. So when we go to the rules, put view war rules. And when we come down to this one, we want to put, what did the other one say? I think it said like start a war or something like that. Okay, so we'll set that up. So now there's one other thing that we need to remember to do here, is that we've got these set up to do it, but we haven't called them yet. So we haven't called this method yet. So what we'll do is when this application starts, it's going to call this constructor here. Initialize, it's going to call this, and then we want it to call register events. Okay, so we can set a breakpoint here just to show you guys what happens when we start this. So go ahead and start the debugger here. So you see, when as the application is loading, it gets hit into this constructor. It's going to, if we step in here a little bit, we'll just step over this one. Now you see it's going to go into register events, and it's going to go over and it's going to hit all those. So we just go ahead and hit continue here, and we'll get our window, and you'll see that when you click, nothing's going to happen yet, but you'll see that the text does update when you leave the button. Any of the buttons, it does clear it. So I mean that pretty much covers what we'll be doing for the main menu part. Up next, what we're going to be looking at is we're going to look at how we're going to create the class we're going to use for our cards, and then we'll also set up a utilities class to have some basic functionality, like to get the image for the card and stuff like that. So I hope that you guys found this informative and easy to follow, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.